Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Kim, and I hope you're having a fabulous day today. If you are interested in true crime stories like I am, I hope that you consider hitting that subscribe button. But either way, thanks for being here. Today's story is nothing short of a horrific nightmare. A nightmare that a 13-year-old Arkesha brutally experienced and lived through. This story is not about three demonic men who acted worse than an untamed animal. Instead, it is a tale about a heroic little girl and her mother who found the courage to fight evil and strive for justice. Arkesha's case is one that lives in the memories of most forever. It stays with you and reminds you of monsters that lure behind the dark, hiding in the shadows. Every time you take a walk down your block at night, you will think of this case. But it also gives you hope and strengthens your belief in God that all is not lost. We all reminisce about our days of our early teen years when we all made innocent mistakes and fell in love for the first time. Well, Arkesha did too. Before we get too far into the case, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. Can I tell you how much I love these sleep masks? And I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor, like truly. I live with 5 people in a 2-bedroom home. California living, man. When I tell you that the mask works, it really does. I have one without the sound, which is the original Manta Sleep mask, which is super comfortable because it's adjustable to fit around your noggin, and also 100% blackout for deeper sleep. No pressure to the eyes. These sockets are really cushy here, and it is completely machine washable. I took this one to Vegas with me, and it has a nice carrying case, and then it has have little earbuds as well to block out the noise. I also have the Manta Sleep Mask Sound. This one has Bluetooth razor thin earbuds fixed within the band. This one is my favorite because I can turn on a podcast to just block out the noise, and then I have the eye coverage that blocks out the light. The battery life is also 20 hours long. Look, I take naps. I don't sleep great. It is vital. Doing some research, it states naps can deliver a number of benefits. Brief naps can be restorative and reduce fatigue during the day. After a night of insufficient sleep, a nap may counteract daytime drowsiness. Also, napping may reduce the impacts of insufficient sleep. For example, a small trial found evidence that naps relieve stress and support the immune system in people whose sleep was limited the night before. Manta's sleep mission is to empower light sleepers to sleep better so that they can do more. Manta Sleep also are pro naps, which fits my lifestyle to a T. I couldn't say enough good things about these masks. It covers all the bases for me, and I know it will do the same for you. They have plenty of other mask options as well. If you're interested, click my link in the description box and use my exclusive code for 10% off today. Thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring today's video. In October 1988, on a lovely evening, a 13-year-old Arkesha had her first junior high school dance in New Orleans, Louisiana. She excitedly dolled up and dressed herself in a pretty gown to have one of the most memorable nights of her junior high school. And all she could think about was her first dance with her boyfriend, twirling and turning with all the butterflies in her stomach. Little did she know that as the evening turned into the dark night, her dream would turn into the worst possible nightmare. Around 11 p.m., as she left the dance with her boyfriend to return back home to her family, she made a thoughtful decision to take the bus. Although it wasn't very far, she just decided it would be safer to get on the bus the few blocks that she needed to go. One decision that she wished to have made differently. Arkesha's boyfriend walked her to the bus stop at the main highway where instead of walking on her own as it was already getting dark, as she waited thinking about home and all the stuff she was going to tell her mom and sister, two monsters disguised as men approached her. Now the boyfriend was like, do you want me to wait for the bus to get here? And Arkesha says, no, you go ahead, you go home. The bus will be here any minute. Huggy, huggy, kiss, kiss, they part ways. But these two men approach her. First, they pretend to be interested in the bus timing, eyeing Arkesha from top to bottom, pointed out to the bus in the distance, saying, oh, it's right there, it's on its way. Disinterested in them, basically. She's not giving them the time of day. The two demonic creatures, not more than 18 or 19, gave away their disguise. The first one of them was fair skin and had a face covered with acne. The red pimples shone against his white, pale monster skin in the dark. Now the second one had a complexion with no unique features. As soon as she raised her arm to point to the incoming bus, both of them grabbed her arm tightly. This is when the fight kicked in. How can a 13-year-old fight two boys who were double her strength compared to hers? The first boy snatched the necklace off of her neck aggressively and instructed her to not run and don't even think about screaming, threatening her with the possibility of a gun. He asked her if she had any money. Arkesha, with one hand, searched her pockets and conjured up $3. It's how much money she had. You know, she's a teenage girl. I'll give you whatever you want. Yes, please, take it. She handed him the money in hopes that this was just a robbery, praying that this bad dream would be over if she complied. But no, the boys had more sinister intentions than robbing this poor little girl. Bad dreams turned into real nightmares. As they attacked and robbed her, they instructed Arkesha to walk towards the nearby football stadium. The light-skinned guy with acne had his arm around his grip of her, and the guy behind them had a gun concealed under his sweatshirt. At this point, Arkesha was scared for her life. She didn't know if she was going to make it out alive or what would happen in between. She's thinking, this is it. This is how I go up to heaven without seeing the world, without living all of her dreams. As the guys forced her into the football stadium, the three of them reached a wired fence. The fence had a hole in it, almost big enough for a mid-sized adult to pass through it. The acne-ridden, I don't have names for them, so this is just the nicknames that I have to use. The acne-riddled brood instructed Arkesha to go across the hole into the fence, and this is when she showed her first resistance. She argued as she said she had nothing more to give them. What else could she do? What do you guys want? The guy replied with the utmost coldness in his voice that they are making her do this so they can make sure that she doesn't run back to the highway. As Arkesha crossed the fence, the next instructions shook the ground underneath her feet. The light-skinned guy stood in front of her, and the other guy stood behind the fence to guard it. This is when he tells her to take her clothes off and that she needed to go under the cold metal stadium seats. After the icy floor numbed her body, everything became a blur. The assault started, and all Arkesha could think about was her mother's embrace. All she wanted to do was to wrap herself in her mother's arm and cry. But the merciless night was not over yet. The bad dream turned into a paralysis-inducing nightmare that had just started. One may ask, what is worse than this? What's worse was yet to come. As the first boy got done with the assault, Arkesha thought it was all over. She could now go home. But she forgot. There was another degenerate waiting for her just outside the fence. As soon as the first guy got off of her, the dark-skinned guy with the gun came through the fence and got on top of her. He didn't utter a single word, but the muffled screams and helplessness of Arkesha were heard in the heavens. After he was done assaulting her, the light-skinned guy came back and told her to count all the way till 100. He threatened her that if she left before she would be done counting, they were going to be waiting outside and much worse would come for her. And Arkesha did what she was told to do. She counted from 1 to 100 before getting up and leaving. The worst was over. All she needed to do now was to go home to her mom, because she knew there would be one person who could fix everything, and it was her mother. Sadly, Arkesha had a whole block to cover before she touched home base. When she came out of the park, adrenaline rushed out and pain flowed in as she walked, and she realized that her entire body was aching in terrible pain. Her shorts below were covered in crimson red blood flowing down her legs. At this point, you just want to run at your maximum speed to reach your home, but Arkesha could barely even walk. Rest assured, run. She forced herself to walk as fast as she could, all the while her lips shivering and thanking God that she was alive. Imagine having such a strong faith, such as a stout belief about everything that happened. You keep thanking God for the blessings of just being alive. 5 minutes away from home, when Arkesha believed she had made it through wherever life could throw at her at a mere 13 years of age, she could see her house. But then there was a man, another vicious creature, standing on the walkway, illuminated by a streetlight. He was drinking beer. At a glance, you'd think maybe not all men are the same. Maybe this one would safely get her home, help her catch the people who had assaulted her. But my friends, you are gravely mistaken. When Arkesha saw the man, her first instinct was just to keep walking straight, because she wasn't that far away from her safe haven. And because she didn't want anyone else to see her in this condition, all covered in blood, as she walked and got closer, she realized that, okay, this is not the man who had done this to me. He is someone she has never seen before. He was an older guy with, a sturdy appearance, ugly looks, she would say, all done up in a macho look, wearing a black jacket, army pants, blue shorts, and boots. Arkesha made her full attempts to go unnoticed without engaging with this frightening-looking person, but that all was in vain. When she was coming closer to her destination, the older guy struck up a conversation. He asked her, where are you going? And when Arkesha didn't answer, he revealed his true nature. The man grabbed her hand and raised his voice to tell her to stop crying and tell him what happened. Arkesha spilled out. She told him that 2 men attacked her, robbed her, and assaulted her. Initially, it seemed that the man sympathized with her, but then he started pestering her for more details. Satan in disguise. He wanted to know who she lived with and how far was she from home. As the 13-year-old innocent girl struggled to make sentences as she was sobbing, the man pulled out a gun. The man pulls out a gun. She's already been through it. Arkesha, like all of us, cannot comprehend what was happening. She could just not believe her luck. It seemed like the sleep paralysis demon just restarted her nightmare. Straggling and struggling, she just sees her house a block away, only if there was a way to teleport. The man asked Arkesha to walk behind the building. There was an open door leading to a dark room. As they entered, he closed the door behind them and then told her to take her clothes off. Then he assaulted her for over 2 hours. 2 hours felt like an eternity, like hell on earth. When Arkesha started crying loudly, the man shushed her and told her a story that was a confession to assault and murder. This man's name was Arnold Manuel. He gruesomely described how 6 months ago he had assaulted another woman near the building and killed her in cold blood. It is incomprehensible for us to hear it as adults. Imagine a 13-year-old girl going through a repeated assault, listening to a man threatening to murder her as he did to another woman. Arkesha only had one thought, one prayer forgot to give her the strength to take her home to her mother, who she knew would make everything that was happening go away. When Arnold was done with his demonic act of violence, he left. Arkesha dressed up and left as fast as she could, because at this point, she did not care. She had been through it. I'm getting home. Shoot me if you need to shoot me. I'm going home. When she reached home, her mother was in utter disbelief. Can you just imagine your child, your 13-year-old, walks in the house in that state? No, I'd never want to imagine that. Arkesha and her sister had been driving around looking for her for hours, worried, sick. As she told them what happened, her mother embraced her and just repeated one thing: everything that prevailed was not her fault. Those men had no right in any world to do what they did. She was going to get justice for every single thing that happened to her baby girl. And she did. As Arkesha calmed down, they went down to the nearest police station to report all that had happened. The police made a detailed report and sent them on their way. But there was some other plans. 3 days after the assault, Arkesha and her mother were riding down the street from the grocery store. Suddenly, Arkesha's eye caught a man wearing a black jacket, camouflage pants, and black boots. As they drove closer, she started screaming at her mother to tell her that he was the same man who assaulted me. Her mother goes to a payphone, and the first order of business, she calls the police. The police came riding down and arrested Arnold Manuel on the charges of aggravated assault and kidnapping. It seemed like everything was over. The bad dream, the nightmare, the sleep demon, all gone. But unfortunately, one other scary thing had to happen. A week after Arnold Manuel's arrest, Arkesha's mother got a call from the DA to ask them to come down to the local hospital. As they drove, they had no idea what or why the DA wanted them to do at this point at the hospital. And, why the hospital, not a police station? When they reached, the DA broke the news to them. It turned out the last guy, Arnold Manuel, who assaulted Arkesha, was HIV positive. This poor girl. I just cannot. Oh my gosh, how? Her nightmare is not over. Everything that could go wrong just outright went wrong. Arkesha had her blood work done for weeks and weeks, and every time she was scared that that was the day that she was going to test positive. So not only was she assaulted, gone home, thinks she's safe, but now she has a reminder because she has to get this blood work done. Just awful. She was bullied in high school. Yeah, kids are freaking mean. They labeled her in the 1990s HIV. HIV at the time was new. It was a plague. It was almost seen as if you have it and you touch, them, you're going to get it. So different time. People who had primarily shown her support because of her case just backed out and isolated her. Suddenly, having HIV was the worst thing ever, worse than getting assaulted. The rest of the trauma was not enough that the people made it no less worse. For months, Arkesha got her blood work done. For years, up till now, she fears that she might be HIV positive. Arnold Manuel was originally charged with aggravated rape and kidnapping of a minor, but something else happened. After 6 to 9 months of the assault, Arkesha's mother got another call. This time, it was not ground-shaking news. It was like lightning at the end of the tunnel. The DA told Arkesha and her family that they decided to charge Arnold Manuel with attempted murder. The grounds of the charge were simply the facts of the case. Manuel was aware that he had HIV and was HIV when he assaulted Arkesha. Other than aggravated assault, he had malicious intentions to put Arkesha's life in utter danger. Official records show that during Arnold's trial for the murder of the other woman, the defendant stipulated that Arkesha testify that he had done this to her on October 3rd, 1988, in the same location where the woman's body was found. He told Arkesha that he assaulted the other woman and that he had killed her, the last woman that was there, experiencing the same thing Arkesha was. This is when she felt that he deserved everything bad that could possibly happen to him. He deserved every bit of punishment because he knew what had happened to her, and he knew he was HIV positive and still made a conscious decision to assault. Arkesha's case was the first one to ever be tried and convicted in Louisiana. Arnold Manuels got a life sentence in prison without parole. He died in prison. I don't think he'll be missed. Nope. The DA informed the family when it happened. Arkesha is now happily married with 3 kids. She never did get HIV. Arkesha Smith and her husband operate a lovely restaurant in New Orleans now. She is happy and healthy. She believes that she survived because her faith in her mother's ability to fix everything in the world surpassed every possible harm that could ever come. And she trusted the fact that whatever harm had come her way, she was not at fault. I found this show on I Survived. It's season 4, episode 7. And I couldn't find it when I looked for it last. But anyways, this is how I discovered this story. If you can find it, it is so good. Unfortunately, the 2 men who attacked Arkesha at the football stadium were never found or convicted. So I have no idea whatever happened to those 2, but I have to assume that that wasn't their last. Those types of people should not be walking. That is horrible. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Have you guys heard of this case? I know a lot of people that I talk to in the chat do watch the I Survived shows. Oh my God, they're so interesting. But when I heard about Arkesha's success after what happened to her, first it was unbelievable. What could happen to a 13-year-old girl? You get attacked and then you walk home, you get attacked again? Like, what? Not to mention the high school drama and just, oh my God, hell. But then she came out and she's happily married, and her and her husband own a restaurant. She has three kids. And it's just like, I'm so glad that it worked out for her, because you can go 2 ways with that information. You can suppress it with drugs and alcohol, or, hopefully get therapy, or, there's just so many routes that you can take. I don't know. It made me feel good to see her thriving. Now, I don't know her. I don't know if she's actually thriving, but I get the impression that she is stronger, not stronger. She is a strong person who got through some of the worst traumatic incidents that we will never come across in one night. Wow. I'll leave it at that. Thanks to all my channel members. Oh, let's leave a purple heart in the comments for Arkesha. Thanks to all my channel members and my Patreons who continue to support me. Their names are on the screen. If you would like early access to new videos and decide the cases I cover next, you can do so by clicking the join button. Well, if you guys have made it to the end, you guys are rock stars, and I love you to death. There are more true crime videos in my Crimey Cases playlist if you would like to check them out. Stay safe, my loves, and remember, if you see something, say something. Bye.